Welcome back to Watch Me Edit. I just wanted to respond. I received some feedback. Actually, it was from the author of this book that wanted to tell me to let you know that they had specifically requested ideas on how to expand this project. So this story is almost 17,000 words, and their goal is to eventually turn it into a full-length novel. So not everybody is looking to do that. So when I edit, I do take into considerations what my client is requesting from the editing project, because some people tend to overwrite, which means that they write a lot more words than are needed. And so there should be things that are cut out of the story. And then some people tend to underwrite when they first write a story, and then they need to expand and fill in things. So in the case of Chasing Cyan, there's been a lot more developmental comments that have needed to happen. So that's where I'm not going to do as many line edits on a part that needs more developmental. However, if I notice that an author is consistently repeating the same mistake, or just repeating a poor writing habit, then I will point that out so that when they are doing their rewrite, they can be aware of that and avoid that. Okay. Also, I had just restarted my computer before I did this and thought that I had almost lost all of the edits for chapters 2 and 3. Thank goodness there is a document recovery option, and now I have autosave on. Again, I'm used to working in Google Docs and everything just gets automatically saved. So I had a little bit of a panic there. And then again, I am reviewing, so I'm leaving comments and making suggestions. And we're on chapter 4. Unsure of what compelled me to stay awake, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, events from earlier playing over and over in my head. Okay, if events from earlier are playing over and over in their head, that's what's compelling them to stay awake. So this is where I would suggest that the author walk us through this. What is she specifically seeing? What images keep repeating? Does his face keep reappearing? I don't know why I can't spell reappearing right now. Oh, I had it right. I just wanted a question mark. Does she... It's almost like when you get obsessed with something and you keep seeing it over and over again. Like, is there a mole on his face that she keeps honing in on? Like, just those little small things, when you're talking to somebody or you're someplace that you don't want to be, you just have that one thing that you hone in on and super focus. And so just these things, like, does she keep feeling the same dropping sensation in her stomach? Like, as she's there laying in bed staring at the ceiling, what is playing over and over again in her head? Like, walk us through that. Also, this is a lot in one sentence. I like to tell people to stop it at 3 phrases. Phrases is the limit, and this one is at least 4. There's a lot of information in here. So yeah, the author could make us feel that discomfort if we got walked through this a little bit. The steady tick of our grandfather clock usually lulled me to sleep, but tonight it raked my eardrums like the sound of nails on a chalkboard. Could this sound be related to, was there anything that happened that evening that this sounded like? That's one thing that could just add to that discomfort of them laying awake. Like, what does the sound reminder of from that had happened in that evening? And that's where we didn't get a lot of detail of the other events. Like, that previous chapter was a lot of a monologue, so we don't have a lot of these details to go with. But, you know, there could have been something like the way that his clothing scraped that could remind this. But this is a steady ticking sound. Okay, so a steady ticking sound could remind her of her heartbeat earlier. So that's something. I would just try to tie it in with the evening's trauma, really. Accustomed to the creaking of the old house and the mimosa tree scraping against my window on windy nights, I attempted to concentrate on those sounds instead. It didn't work. Noises I'd been comforted by for years grated on every nerve in my body. It's just sometimes when things don't work, it usually has to do with it reminding you of something. So that's kind of more of what I would expect to see here, is just recalling it, tying it in with what had just happened. Like, why isn't it working? I needed to get out. Maybe a little fresh air would soothe my inner turmoil. Okay, so I would preface this with some body discomfort. Talk about being restless, because all we have so far is just some annoying noises. Are those the only things bothering her? Like, I feel like the noises aren't enough for this sudden, like, I need to get out. If it is just the noises, then make us uncomfortable with repeating like that. You want to make us uncomfortable. You need to make us, like, tired. Make us want to get out, too. Maybe a little fresh air would soothe my inner turmoil. Maybe you'll see the wolf. My inner voice spoke only truth, but I swatted it away. Wolves were dangerous, and the idea of wanting to meet up with one on his turf at his normal hunting hour I would just shorten this. We've had some longer sentences, but like wolves are dangerous, period. Like you don't even need to go elsewhere. I think we can all agree that wolves are dangerous. What a preposterous scheme that would be. Scheme. It's like, I understand they're using that word because they just used idea, but like, is this really a scheme? Like, it's not being... It's not really scandalizing either. Yet outside called to me, promising a break from the overwhelming racket consuming me from the inside. I'd probably go into... like, just add a little bit about that pull. Like, you know, we know that they're trying to get a break from the overwhelming racket, but what are they looking for is fresh air, the room to breathe, just like wide open area with a lack of constriction. Just adding in what is appealing about going outside at night right now instead of staying in bed. Because most of us want to stay warm in bed, even if we're restless. So what is it about outside? Taking care to step lightly, I slipped from my bed and eased my feet into my house shoes. Okay. So, I love this. We have 3 mice. So, we would assume that it is her bed. And we would hope that it is her feet that she's putting into her house shoes. So, this could be taking care to step lightly. I slipped from bed and eased into my house shoes. I mean, we would hope that you're putting... I mean, it's not like you're going to put your hands into your house shoes. Creeping down the hall, I listen for my grandmother's telltale snores of deep sleep. Okay, so I don't like the phrase I listen. Like that removes us away. So if you wanted to mention the fact that she's like purposefully, you know, you could get into something about I strained to hear, I don't know, creeping down the hall, I listen for I just feel like creeping down the hall, as I crept down the hall, just something like, so this is what I would do with it. As I crept down the hall, my grandmother's telltale snores of deep sleep. I mean, you could do something like, reassured me I wouldn't get caught. Something like that. Because that's what is going on in their head. And that gets rid of the I listened. Because if somebody hears something, you know they were, like they listened and heard it. All right. she was out of it. As I made my way to the front door, my steps were barely audible. So I already had this as, and now we have another as. So you could flip it. My steps were barely audible as I made my way to the front door. I mean, it's not a huge thing. We don't have a lot of sentences starting with as. But we also know that they're creeping down the hall. We could do something like, still, I kept my steps barely audible. And then if we want to talk about being closer to the front door, because that's what's happening, inching closer to the front door since I took it out of the other one. My heart raced and my teeth chattered. I grabbed the hideous red cloak when I realized it would be much colder outside. Big Mama would be proud of me, not for sneaking out, but for taking her advice. I feel like there should be like a little smile or something. Like, just something with that. Like, aw, Big Mama would be proud of me. Look at me, I'm doing the thing. Even with the barrier of thick, itchy fabric covering most of me, the early fall chill settled into my bones. The hair on my arms and legs stood at attention. My ears and nose began to burn almost instantly. I feel like we all know what that feels like. That's kind of a good description. I liked it. Remembering I hadn't secured the hood, I covered my head. I mean, it's not like she forgot for long, so, like, I don't feel like that remembering, this just feels a little dramatic to me. It's not like that she's been out there for an hour. I would just phrase it like, covering my head, I secured the hood. Just something like that. The whole remembering part felt weird to me. One small motion caused a sudden warmth to envelop me. I kind of feel like this one small motion or this small motion. You don't necessarily need the one. You could take it or leave it. This one small motion, this small motion. Although it was two, because you're covering the head. Okay, we're getting rid of. I'm going to resolve this. Delete that, because it was like two. This small motion caused a sudden warmth to envelop me. maybe the old lady was right about the damned cloak. The man in the moon smiled down, casting a brilliant glow across our land. It had been a long time since I'd ventured out this late, and even longer since I'd taken time to bask in the luster of a full moon. I really like, I'll just highlight this. I really like this because it's a good way to say the moon is full, which you do at the end of the paragraph. That's a well done. I like that. What I don't like is that it had been. I would do something like, just because that's just passive, it had been, is passive. So if we just get into, I hadn't ventured out this lake in, I mean, I guess they have a long time. But then we do run into, then this one feels like it would be, it had been even longer since I'd taken time. So, I mean, I don't know if it is like, something like, going without for months was too long a time. So that could be better. Might not be. Might also give her, the author, ideas of how to restructure it. So that's one of the things, like, you know, even if my phrasing isn't the best, it might give them ideas on how to restructure it to get their point across while still getting rid of the it had been. Taking a short walk around our property would surely help clear my mind enough to get a little rest. So especially since I added the going, I think that this could just be a short walk around our property would surely help clear my mind enough to get a little rest. I also don't like the get. I mean, it's not entirely horrible here, but a short walk around our property would surely help clear my mind enough to permit me to rest. Just get is just one of those vague words that like doesn't mean anything. It's not always bad, but if we don't have to use it. Walking the perimeter seemed to be the best option to get plenty of fresh air. See, we have another get. We don't want those get back and back. but also like walking the perimeter. A short walk around our property, walking the perimeter. It's just like, is there a path here? Yes. As my feet carried me down the stone path, my mind began to wander. Walking the perimeter seemed to be... What about like... it just seems weird to be like, oh, what's my best option here? Like, I don't feel like that kind of fits. But something like the loop around the perimeter would be the perfect amount of fresh air. That just seems more like the actual way that somebody would think, instead of like, what's my option? Well, I normally do the loop around the perimeter, but do I want to do that now or not? Like, it's not like they're weighing their pros and cons here. It would just be like, oh yeah, like this is a familiar path. It's a good loop. Like, that'll be enough time. As my feet carried me down the stone path, my mind, I'm going with Grammarly, which I want to turn off. I keep forgetting. How do I get rid of you, Grammarly? Turn off. Oh, I had restarted my computer. That's why it's back on. But yes, that was my instinct as well. As my feet carried me down the stone path, my mind wandered. Had the moon been full in the dream from the night before? I couldn't recall. Before I had a chance to dive too deep into my thoughts, something in the woods crunched, followed by a rustling sound, similar to that dream. Okay. So first off, this is too much, especially for the, like, this is a sudden thing. Something in the woods crunched. And then, like, leaves or brush rustled. But also, where is the nervousness? Like, is this... What's her reaction to this? Like, if I'm out in the woods and something crunches, like, I'm going to whip around. Like, what's going on here? Does she whip around? Does her breath catch in her throat? Does her heart start racing? Like, what's going on? Especially similar to that dream. Like, if we have a stronger response earlier on about that dream, then we can have a stronger response here that's going to be also similar to that dream. Hello? My voice came out softer than planned. I could barely hear it, and I was right next to me. Okay, this is cute. I want to keep the I could barely hear it and I was right next to me. I don't know if I can. My voice came out softer than planned. It's passive, so I'm trying to figure out how we make that active. Like, hello, what was meant to be like something like a strong call came out in a whisper. That could work. What was meant to be a strong call came out in a whisper. I could barely hear it and I was right next to me. Something like that. And then we could keep that really cute phrasing that we have here. Because I adore this sentence. I don't know why. Clearing my throat, I spoke louder. Hello, is anyone there? I have a knife. Show yourself. Okay, so I feel like this is 2 sentences, so this would be a semicolon. I have a knife. Show yourself. Those are both 2. I also feel like this should be broken up too. Hello, is anyone there? It doesn't seem like, hello, is anyone there? The sound. So what sound? Because we had a crunching sound, we had a rustling sound. So we need to get distinct. So be, man, what is the word? Precise. Like we need to know what sound. Stopped for a moment. What if it was like stopped for a heartbeat? Oh, also, here's just me being creative, and the author may or may not like it. Stopped for a beat that my heart skipped. Like if you're afraid, like all of a sudden you feel like your heart skipped a beat. That's when we get rid of a moment. The sound, whatever sound, they're going to fill that in. Stop for a beat that my heart skipped before starting again further ahead. This was a bad idea. It's like, what is this? And does it have to do with this late? Like, is that what? Working up the courage to move. What does that take to work up the courage to move? Like they could expound. This could be some expounding. What is this process like for your character? I turned toward the house and saw them. 2 glowing orbs past the tree line focused on me. Oh no. Again, we have not had enough visceral responses. Also, we've not had enough visceral responses. This is definitely a time for one. You know, something like, does her mouth go dry here? That would also, the next sentence is, hey there, big guy. Which is a period because the rest of it is, I used my most soothing tone, which if her mouth went dry could come out more scratchy than she intended. Hoping he would realize I wasn't a threat or a meal. Convincing a wolf that you're not a meal. That's funny. Hey, look, you eat people like me, but I'm not for eating. I used my oath. Okay, if her mouth does go dry, this could come out scratchy. How'd you get there? I swear I heard you down the path a bit, in the other direction. Moving away from me. I almost want like some movement here. Like of her just pointing. So just some sort of action there. Like, does she point and wrinkle her brows in confusion? Just a little. Because I feel like you'd be going back and forth. You wouldn't want to turn away from the wolf, but then you wouldn't. You'd be like, wait, you were over there. We continued staring at each other. Well, this could just be we. Where's that cursor? Okay. We stared at each other, neither moving. The wolf didn't respond. Of course he didn't. Animals don't talk. I do like this character's inner talk. Like, even though she's in the scary situation, it's still just a little bit of the character's personality coming through. Of course he didn't. Animals don't talk. But he didn't make a move to leave or get closer either. Just getting rid of another get. I left them with one. They can have that one get. That's all you get. Do you plan to watch me all night, or are you going to let me pass? I feel like she's getting a little cheeky here. She getting a little more brave here? Sounds a little cheeky. Again, he stared, unmoving. I almost want like just something else, like I don't know, still as a statue, his eyes never left mine, or just, I don't feel like we need that again. We could just take that out. I don't have to get super picky here. He stared, unmoving. Do we already have a back? When we do have 2 stairs. My cat's going crazy right now. I don't know if you can hear in the background, but she's being a little crazy. Leave as a comment. If I can type, goodness sakes, it's because my keyboard isn't centered in front of me. To avoid repeating stare, you could say unmoving, his eyes remained fixed on mine or me. We already had focused on me, unmoving. So maybe we don't need the on me. We already know that. Unmoving, his eyes remained fixed. But she could get rid of the second stared and just do something with it, and we don't need the again. I know, it's ridiculous to talk to a wild animal, but you've been following me. Sometimes I think you're my guardian angel, here to protect me from that awful man. That's probably why I had such a strange dream. I want to know, like, is she starting to relax now? Like, it just seems like, I don't know, it feels like her shoulders dropped here or something. Like she's giving in to being in the wolf's presence. We just need a little bit more from this character. Terrified of what might happen if I chanced taking a step, I decided to do something different. As I sat on the cool stone path, he continued to watch me. Okay, so I feel like her different thing that she did is kind of a big deal, so I want it to be its own sentence. And then that could be on its own. Just put the wolf. We had the wolf on its own line up above. But I like this. Terrified of what might happen if I chanced taking a step, I decided to do something different. I sat on the cool stone path. He continued to watch me. I guess you're okay with this. It seems we're at a stalemate. Maybe you know I won't leave and you're waiting for friends to gobble me up. I feel like when she says, I guess you're okay with this, I feel like this deserves a shrug. Because she's totally resigned now. Or perhaps you're as curious about me as I am of you. My fingers found a patch of grass to pick as we kept our eyes trained on each other. Just like in the dream. Something I couldn't place about the beast seemed familiar, even outside of the dream. What if it was, instead of dream and dream, my fingers found a patch of grass to pick as we kept our eyes trained on each other. Just like in my sleep. Something I couldn't place about the beast seemed familiar even outside of the dream. Nightmare, whatever that had been. Ungloved, my fingers became numb too quickly. How about just quickly? I made a comment about how I hated the color red, but appreciated the warmth the cloak offered. Like, so why not just have her make this comment? I would just have her speak it unless it's a thought. The beast pawed at the ground before moving a bit closer. Shouldn't you be heading home? About instead of bit, like a few feet. Shouldn't you be heading home? Stepping from the trees, the wolf circled a few times on the path about 20 paces ahead of me and flopped down. We don't need a response. Him getting comfortable meant I'd be stuck here for a while. This was going to be a long night. I just think it should be sigh. This was going to be a long night. All right. We did what we could with that one. And I'm sure that will give the author some good ideas of where to go from there. So if you're interested, don't forget to check out my editing services. There will be a link to those in the description. And I'm also offering alpha and beta reading services. I just got my first beta reading project that I will be hosting in another playlist on this channel. I'm super excited to do that because it's a story. I've actually read it once through because the author was publishing it on a serial fiction platform, and I got to read it there, but now they want to rewrite it and was asking for some comments. So we're going to have some fun with that. It's a young adult fantasy story that's just really great. Okay, we'll see you next time.